Okay, recording. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so last time where we left off, we read about how Mahākaccāna encountered some young Brahmins and how he managed to, the young Brahmins, naturally they're just young boys, so they went to taunt him purposely, but he managed to uh, he managed to not only teach them, but teach their teachers. And then their teacher, Lokitcha, became very impressed and then went to the Triple Gem for refuge and got his students and his households to do the same. So that is how Venerable Mahākaccāna was able to, let's say, get some of these younger Brahmins to realize where they were wrong. And he himself was also, before he was ordained, he was also born into a Brahmin family. So he understood the Brahmin text as well. Okay, so that was where we last left off. So we continue today with the rest of this chapter. So the Venerable Mahākaccāna seems to have had particularly deep insight into the causal basis of human quarrels and disputes. So he understands clearly what makes people quarrel or what makes people disagree with each other. So we have already seen how he traced the causal roots of conflict in his exposition in the Madhupindika Sutta. So that was a few readings ago. And as we just mentioned, his skill in transforming Lohitcha's retinue of disciples. On another occasion, and this is in the Anguttara Nikaya, a book of Twos, so 4.6, that's probably chapter 4, paragraph 6, I'm assuming. A Brahmin named Aramadanda came to him and asked, "Why is society rent by such bitter conflicts? Conflicts that pit nobles against nobles, Brahmins against Brahmins, householders against householders." Now, this is an interesting question because, we are 2,600 years after, or maybe 2,500 years, who knows, after this question had been asked. And in the same way, we can think of it this way. Why is society nowadays filled with so much bitter conflicts or wars, let's say? Conflicts that pit, so if we want to change nobles, we can say conflict that pit leaders against leaders. We see that occurring everywhere, whether it's leaders of countries or leaders of, let's say, companies, whatever it is. So they are in such a position to lead, right? To set good examples. That's what. So in those days, nobles are learned people. That means they had access to education, that they are privy to education, and maybe others like farmers or merchants may not be privy to education. So the noble people, noble ones, sorry, no, I'm thinking wrong. Nobles against nobles. I think noble people here probably are more like, learned people, people who have some form of education. So we would expect that people who are educated, whether they are part of, let's say, the country's government, or whether they are, whatever it is, because they are learned, because they have received education, the society would expect that such people set good examples because they are educated, right? Even today in society, if one has a PhD to their name, or maybe they are a graduate from let's say Cambridge University or Harvard University, or one of the top universities in the world, then because they're viewed by society as, oh, such and such a person is very learned, is I wouldn't dare use the word wise, but is learned because they have studied so long and they graduated from prestigious institutions, right? So one would expect them to, whatever that they say, people have this kind of mindset even till today, going, oh, what they say must probably be hold some weight, probably be true. So even back in the days, right? But even back in the days, nobles have conflict, and then Brahmins against Brahmins, householders against householders. That means common people everywhere. Why do we argue? And to this the elder replied, it is because of sensual lust, attachment, greed, and obsession with sensual pleasures that nobles fight with nobles, Brahmins with Brahmins, householders with householders. So it's because of the attachment to their sensual pleasures, or our sensual pleasures. They want to say we are so attached to our anything that pleasures our five senses. Yeah, the sense of sight, hearing or smell, good smell or nice smell, or taste, odor, taste, feeling, touch, yeah, even pleasurable to the mind, let's say. There's so nowadays even more, the whole marketplace globally now is just filled with all kinds of products that you can think of, all kinds of services that you can think of, that are designed to pleasure one or two or three of those six senses that we talked about. And one would think, well, now we are so spoiled with so many different type of products and services out there that we need not have to argue anymore, because there's enough to feed everyone's lust, everyone's sensual pleasure. But it seems not. right? For example, if we think about it, if there were only one brand of shampoo, let's say, yeah, because we all have to wash our hair. If there was only one brand of shampoo in the whole world, then maybe, some people might be happy, yeah, this shampoo solves, my oily hair. But then somebody else with dry hair might go, not, I'm not happy with this shampoo because, but we have now so many different types of shampoo, not just for oily hair or dry hair. There's just countless out there with so many different brands that one would think there's probably enough to satisfy everyone. But it seems not. And still more products are coming out into the marketplace every single day. And yet still arguments and um, uh, unpleasurable speech, let's say, is also very commonplace now in society. Okay, so doesn't matter how many different types of products we have out there, it will never be able to rid society of conflicts because of sensual pleasures. So then next, Aramadanda asks, then why is it that ascetics fight with ascetics? Which is a good question, because ascetics are meant to have given up, right? They are not householders. They don't live in a house. They are meant to, um, not have belongings. They meant to practice asceticism, live in the forest, all that. So because of their practice, they should be free from sensual pleasures, is what Aramadanda is suggesting, right? So if they are free from sensual pleasures, how come they fight with each other? Then Mahākaccāna replied, it is because of lust for views, attachment, greed, and obsession with views that ascetics fight with ascetics. So Mahākaccāna is saying, oh yes, ascetics don't have belongings. They don't live in a house. They are meant to be rid of sensual pleasures as part of their practice, but they still are attached to their views, their beliefs. They are thinking that, my belief or what I practice is correct, anyone else's is wrong. So each ascetic has their own attachment as well, but it's a different kind of attachment. It's a different kind of lust. The object is different, but there is still that greed, that attachment. This time, the object is their view. And finally, the Brahmin asked whether there was anyone in the world who had transcended both sensual lust and lust for views. And although Mahākaccāna, as an arahant, could have put himself forth as an example of such a one, with characteristic modesty and self-effacement, he named instead the Blessed One who was dwelling at Savatthi at the time. And when this was said, the Brahmin Aramadanda knelt down on the ground, held out his hands in reverential salutation, and exclaimed 3 times, homage to the Blessed One, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one. Then in the next sutta, right after this one, a Brahmin named Kandarayana reproached Mahākaccāna. That means kind of addressed him more like reproach, I think scold, but not in a kind of mention to him, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, yeah? So reproach Mahākaccāna for not showing proper respect towards aged Brahmins. And the elder defended himself by distinguishing the conventional usage of words aged and young from their proper meaning within the discipline of the noble ones. So from Mahākaccāna's perspective, in terms of the Sangha set up by the Buddha, aged or young is not based on whether one is older or one is younger, is not based on their birth year or birth date even. It's different. It's based on something else. So here on this latter criterion, even if a person is 80, 90, or 100 years from birth, if he's still addicted to sensual pleasures, he is reckoned as a child, not an elder. But even if a person is young with jet black hair, endowed with the blessing of youth, if he has broken free from sensual desires, he is then reckoned as an elder. Why? Because the one who's free from sensual desires is free from their shackles, their hindrances. So they are, in essence, they are, one would say they are wiser, they are less attached. And so in that sense, they're probably more worthy of respect than someone, irregardless of age, who is still addicted to sensual pleasures. Once the Venerable Mahākaccāna gave the monks a discourse on the 6 recollections, the contemplations of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, virtue, the Sila, generosity, and devas. He declared that it is wonderful and marvelous how the Blessed One had discovered these 6 recollections as the way to freedom for those still trapped in the confines of the world. He describes the 6 recollections in exactly the same terms that the Buddha himself had used to describe the 4 foundations of mindfulness. They are the means for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the passing away of pain and grief, for the arrival at the right method, for the realization of Nibbana. And on another occasion, some elder bhikkhus were holding a discussion about the right time to approach a monk worthy of esteem. So again, when we want to approach here, what they're trying to think about or discuss is when is an appropriate time? Yeah, if one wants to go and ask for advice from, let's say, a monk, and it's more respectful monk. Okay, so then one said he should be approached after he had finished his meal, which makes sense because when a monk finished his meal, it's probably the best time because before he goes in to maybe have a rest in his quarters or something like that. So we want to engage in the conversation, let's say, or ask something, let's say, after his meal time would be a good time. That's a common understanding, okay, common practice. Another said he should be approached in the evening, while still another contended that the early morning was the most fitting time to speak with him. So these were elder bhikkhus, okay? They wanted to kind of figure out when would be appropriate. Is it after the meal time? Is it later in the evening before they retire, let's say? Or early in the morning because they are fresh. Unable to reach a accord, they came to Mahākaccāna with their problem. And the elder replied that there were 6 proper times for approaching a worthy monk. So the first 5 are when the mind is overcome and obsessed by the 5 mental hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse and doubt, and one cannot find an outlet from them on one's own. So here, what the elder monks were suggesting was according to, so when would be an appropriate time to suit the monk worthy of esteem? But here, what Mahākaccāna is trying to say, there are 5 proper times, that is, when we, not the elder monk, when we are overcome and obsessed with our 5 mental hindrances, and we cannot solve it on our own. We are completely overcome and we are very troubled by our hindrances. Then we should go and approach a monk worthy of esteem. So this is interesting because from Mahākaccāna's advice, he is saying that don't wait. If we are really having a lot of difficulty and we are overcome, we are obsessed, we are having a lot of difficulty, don't wait for an appropriate time. Go and seek advice. Okay. The 6th occasion to approach is when one does not know a suitable object to attend to in order to reach the destruction of the cankers. Or in other words, one doesn't know what would be a good object of meditation to overcome the hindrances. So basically what Mahākaccāna is saying is that when is a good time? A good time is when we are completely overcome by our mental hindrances. That is a good time to go and seek the advice of a worthy elder, worthy monk. That's his answer. It was not always with words that Venerable Mahākaccāna taught, but also by silent example. On one such occasion, the Buddha was moved to extol him in an uddana, an inspired utterance, preserved for us in the canonical collection of that name. One evening, the Buddha was seated in his cottage at Jeta's Grove in Savatthi, when he saw Mahākaccāna nearby, sitting cross-legged, holding his body erect, having mindfulness with regard to the body set up and well established within him. On realizing the significance of this, the Blessed One uttered this inspired utterance: he who always has mindfulness, continually established on the body thus, if there had not been, there would not be for me. There will not be, so there will not be for me. If he dwells on this in graded steps, in time he will pass beyond attachment. The Uddana commentary in its explanation of this sutta helps shed light on the approach that Mahākaccāna adopted to reach arahatship. Although this explanation conflicts with the account of his instantaneous enlightenment found in the biographical sketch of the Anguttara commentary, it appears more realistic. So the Uddana commentary explains that in his endeavor to attain arahatship, Mahākaccāna first developed jhana using mindfulness of the body as his subject of meditation. Then taking that jhana as his foundation, he then redirected mindfulness of the body onto the track of insight-wise meditation using the wisdom of insight that arose from this contemplation to realize the supramundane paths and fruits. Passing through each stage in succession, he brought his work to its consummation in the fruit of arahatship, and thereafter he would regularly adopt the same approach in order to enter the fruition attainment of arahatship, the special meditative absorption exclusive to the Arahat, in which the bliss of Nibbana is experienced even in this very life. So if we go back to here, if there had not been, there would not be for me. There will not be, so there will not be for me. If there had not been, there would not be. There will not be, so there will not be for me. Mm. Yeah. I'm not sure if anyone who's dialed in has any comments, because when I'm reading through this section, then for me, the idea of Majjhima Nikaya, the Anupana Sutta, 111 comes to mind, but I'm not sure if anyone who's dialed in has any comments on that. But I'm not completely clear on how the commentary here relates to the utterance there as well. Let's continue, yeah? So it was just on such an occasion when the elder was sitting absorbed in fruition attainment that the Buddha caught sight of him and extolled him in this inspirational verse. The couplet by which the Buddha expresses the theme of contemplation is taken by the commentary to signify four-cornered emptiness, the absence of I and mine in the past and present, and the absence of I and mine in the future. By applauding the Venerable Mahākaccāna with this inspired utterance, the Buddha has held him up as a model for later generations to emulate in the quest to overcome attachment to the world. So I guess here it's just merely touching on the impersonal nature of all things. So probably a long way of explaining that, I guess. Anyone has any thoughts on that? That's actually the end of that chapter, because the next chapter is on the Thera verses. But that Udana was the end of this chapter on the other teachings of Mahākaccāna. Anyone would like to offer any comments? No comments. Okay. So the Thera verses is a very short one. I think we'll cover that. We might not go all the way to the last chapter, exegetical treatises, because that will take too long. But we might just read through Thera verses. So of course, Thera means the elder monks, Gatha's verses. So actually here the Thera verses is double. So we should say the Thera stop. Okay, because Gatha means verses, sometimes translated as songs or poems, but verses is probably a more accurate translation. Okay, so the Thera the verses of the ancient elders, includes 8 verses ascribed to Mahākaccāna. And these verses are in no way exceptional and merely expressed in verse form, injunctions to proper discipline for monks and practical advice for householders. Although Kaccana's verses addressed to the Brahmin Lohika did serve effectively as a didactic tool. So he did use the verses we read last week. From the perspective of in the old days, this is what the Brahmins used to do, blah, blah, blah. And they were effective. He does not seem to have been as amply endowed with the gift of poetic expression as several of the other great disciples, such as Mahākaccāna, Sariputta, and Vāngisa. His sphere of excellence was analysis and exegesis, not inspirational eloquence or artistic creativity. So we've read enough of Mahākaccāna by now to realize that his strength is more in analyzing the teachings and then explaining in detail that based on that analysis. He's not poetic. He's not expressive, not in that sense. Okay. And the first two verses, according to the commentary, were spoken as an exhortation to the bhikkhus. One day, the elder had noticed that a number of monks had laid aside their meditation practice in order to delight in work and in company. They were also growing too fond of the delicious food provided by their devoted lay supporters. So he then admonished them thus: one should not do much work. One should avoid people. One should not bustle to obtain gifts. One who is eager and greedy for flavors misses the goal that brings happiness. They knew as a bulk this homage and veneration obtained among devoted families. A subtle dart, difficult to extract. Honor is hard for a vile man to discard. So it's trying to say that better not to, he's trying to tell them, don't be too delighted and fond of gifts or food or offerings that your lay supporters give you, because once you become, well, first of all, if you're too eager and greedy for all those things, then you miss the true goal of the practice that brings true happiness beyond all these sensual pleasures. And he also said that if you become too reliant on the gifts and too fond on the food that's provided by the lay devotees, then it's very hard, because it becomes ingrained very subtly into them, that when they want to extract it, it becomes very difficult, because they become too attached to that support that's given to them. So it's trying to tell them. But you can see here that it's not very poetic. There's no expressiveness. It's just plain, this is what you should not do, something like that. Okay. In the other 6 verses, again, according to the commentary, were spoken as exhortations to King Chandapajota. In the king, it is said, place faith in the Brahmins and perform animal sacrifices at their behest, because that's what the Brahmins usually do. In fact, when I was visiting Nepal, I don't know if they still do this, back in when was I in Nepal? 2017, I think. Yeah. So I was just small group, and we were visiting Kathmandu and a few other places. And we visited one place, which is a tourist place, but it's also a historical, it's a historical tourist destination. Let's say. And it was in the olden days, it was one of the palaces, not a big one, a small one, a small one, and it's quite close to the city, not very far. It was a small palace, and in the middle of the palace grounds is like a courtyard, and the tour guide or not tour guide, sorry, the because it's a tourist spot, so there is I think we had to pay to go in. I can't remember, to be honest. But there is a guide station there, so tourists will come and then he will explain, blah blah blah. This used to be a palace and blah blah blah. And I think once a year, I could be wrong, maybe my memory fails me. They still hold animal sacrifices there once a year or something like that. Maybe I could be wrong there, but what I do remember is seeing on the walls, because these are the old palaces, so it's like the grounds are stone grounds, and then it's like stone walls, except for the higher, then it's like timber, but up to a certain height, the walls are of stone walls. There's where the section where animal sacrifices are held, we can still see the blood marks, stains, yeah. So I'm not sure if they still do that, but anyway. So he also would impose penalties and confer favors arbitrarily, presumably on account of that impulsive temperament of his that earned him the title the Violent. So he probably had an angry nature. Therefore, to dissuade the king from such reckless behavior, the elder recited the next 4 verses. It is not on account of another that a mortal's karma is evil. On one's own accord, one should not resort to evil, for mortals have karma as their kinsman. So because this king, he imposed penalties, you give favor to various people differently, as though, just based on his impulsiveness, that probably Mahākaccāna is thinking, this king, because he has that habit of, okay, you can have that, and okay, you need to go to prison or something like that, like very impulsive, that probably this king, because of his impulsive nature, has the mindset that it's not him, it's not the king that is responsible, it's the other person. The other person is responsible for that. So they need to be punished, or they need to be given favors or something like that. So what Mahākaccāna is saying is that what you're doing, your habit shows that you have that mindset, that kind of mindset, that your karma is what happens to you, he's probably saying to the king, he's probably implying to the king, and it's not very much different from what people nowadays think. He's probably implying to the king that what happens to you is not because of somebody else's doing. what happens to you, because karma is just a common term, even now till today, people still use. Actually, karma is misused a lot. I remember when Rubo Sister came, I used to say there is karma vipaka as well. So and before the karma is just the vipaka has to have fruition, then only you know the thing will materialize, whatever it is. So it's not as simple as some people might say, okay, today if I steal a piece of bread from somebody and I without asking permission, then another day somebody will steal bread from me. It's not so black and white. Karma is not so black and white. But what is common thinking even till today is something bad happened to me, or this happened to me because of so and so, or because of somebody else doing that thing to me. And so the king, having such a impulsive temperament, probably had such thinking, such habit that could influence his reckless behavior. And so Mahākaccāna is trying to say it's not because of somebody else doing that determines what happens to you. It is your own doing. But he didn't say you. He's saying a mortal's karma. It's not on account of another. He's saying that he's using a mortal. So he's not saying you, king. He's saying anyone, a mortal, a human being. Because our karma is our own kinsman. It's like our family kinsman, or our brother, we cannot run away. And it's based on our own doing. So that's why we should not do evil things. One is not a thief by another's word. One is not a sage by another's word. It is as one knows oneself that the devas also know one. So it's saying whether a person is good or bad is not based on what someone else says about them. That person themselves will know whether they are doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. Just as much as the heavens know, is what it's trying to say. So the heavens and that person will know, and it's not dependent on what somebody else says about them. Others do not understand that we all come to an end here. But those wise ones who understand this thereby settle their quarrels. So here, I'm not 100% sure what he means by that we all come to an end here. I'm assuming that we could be different interpretations. One interpretation is that, well, we all come to be in this life, and if we're born in this life, then we also have to die. That may be one interpretation. Others do not understand that we all come to an end here. Those wise ones who understand this thereby settle their quarrels. So, let's see if there's a commentary, I guess in essence, it's like we all come to an end here, but those wise ones who understand this thereby settle their quarrels. The wise man lives indeed even despite the loss of his wealth. But if one does not obtain wisdom, then even though rich, one is not alive. So others do not understand that we all come to an end here. Yeah, probably we're all pretty much the same. So we are born, we all have to die as well, probably. So there's no win or lose, let's say. This one is straightforward, this final verse, because it's like, even if one is rich, but without wisdom, then pretty much one is not really living. Here is saying that wise men, even if they lose their wealth, then they are truly living. Okay? So this is valuable advice and useful advice for us to remind ourselves every single day. Because we live in a society now that still very much emphasizes material wealth as superior. I'm not saying that if a person has material wealth that they do not deserve it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is society tends to value or look up to one who is wealthy versus one who has very little in terms of material wealth. So society still measures the value of a person in that manner, not in terms of their level of wisdom, because the majority of common folk, or the majority of the people, have difficulty in measuring wisdom. If imagine if we were living in a world where, just like a thermometer, we use a thermometer to measure temperature, the weather. Let's say now the weather outside is 20 degrees. I go out, I hold a thermometer up against the wind or air, let's say, and then the thermometer might show me, okay, now it's 20 degrees Celsius. So that's a measurement of temperature that no one can dispute, because it's a proven method of measuring temperature. Now suppose we have a similar kind of device, I don't know, whatever it is, that when we hold up that device to a person, a person who's alive and breathing, let's say, and then imagine if we had a device, such a device, that just by holding the device next to the person, I don't know, ear or whatever, it can detect that person's level of wisdom. I mean, that would completely change. That would, be revolutionary, would completely revolutionize how society functions. Right now, society views people who are wise either based on their influence, probably based on their influence, their level of influence. That means how many people follow them, or on some occasions, how much wealth they have, or maybe how they are using that wealth. So let's say if they have a lot of money or possessions or property or whatever, and they are very they are very generous, or they support many trusts or foundations, or they do a lot of charity, things like that. And then, society would tend to view that, because such a person is so wealthy already, yet so generous, and then he or she probably has a good amount of wisdom. No, that's how society tends to function, right? Because we don't have a particular device that, let's say, something like this, and we hold it to that, our ear, and we go like a thermometer. Okay, I only have 10 degrees of wisdom, as opposed to somebody else who has 180 degrees of wisdom. We don't have that. Um, it's or in some cases, simply based on what comes out from their mouth, as in words. And then people say, "Oh, you're very wise." So we do not have such a device. If we did have such a measurement device, very accurate one, I think that would completely revolutionize how society functions. The last two stanzas were spoken by the elder when the king came to him one day and informed him of a disturbing dream he had seen the previous night. One hears all with the ear, one sees all with the eye. The wise man should not reject everything that is seen and heard. One with eyes should be as if blind, one with ears as if deaf, one with wisdom as if mute, one with strength as if feeble. Then, when the goal has been attained, one may lie upon one's deathbed. The commentary explains the purport of the verse thus: a wise person should not reject everything, but should first investigate virtues and faults, and then should reject whatever should be rejected and accept whatever is accepted. Therefore, in regard to what should be rejected, though one possesses vision, one should be as if blind, and though able to hear, one should be as if deaf. When tempted to speak what is unfit to be uttered, one who is intelligent and good speaker should be as if dumb. And in regard to what should not be done, one who is strong should be as if feeble. And the last line is ambiguous in the Pali as well, and the commentary interprets it in two different ways. When a task that should be done has arisen, one should investigate it and not neglect it, even if one is lying on one's deathbed. Alternatively, if a task that one should not do has arisen, one should prefer to lie down on one's deathbed rather than to do it. Neither explanation sounds convincing, and the sense consonant with the spirit of Theravada as a whole would seem to be one should die as one who has attained the goal, as an Arhat. So that's a more simple explanation. Anyway, the Theragatas can be interpreted in many different ways because sometimes they are not very straightforward and could have different underlying meaning. So think of when we are reading the Theragatas, some of the Theragatas are simple, easy, direct, but some we have to maybe dig a little bit further, as in what was the underlying situation, scenario where it occurred, what was happening, things like that. But again, a lot of it is just utterances. It's different from, like, say, the Nikayas, where they clearly had certain teachings to follow. Okay. But anyway, we'll stop here. Yeah, because it's also time to stop, and then we will continue with the exegetical treatises, which is the last chapter on Venerable Mahākaccāna's story. And anyone who wants to comment or want to add anything, feel free. No comments, no nothing. Okay. Then we can together share merits. So, let us share merits together. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shadow of grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus applied for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, Devas and Nagas of mighty powers, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu. All right, so we'll pause here. We'll stop here. Continue next time. Your reading, okay? Thank you so much for dialing in. I wish you all good health and happiness, and have a good week ahead. Okay? Bye-bye.